You're entering the wind tunnel. Your home for real motorsports conversation. No spin, no bull, just Jack. This week on Wind Tunnel.
In the 1940s, they ran midgets in the Coliseum.
I'm racing against guys younger than the distance between my championship.
It's a special place, and it's really the holy grail of the state of Indiana. What we have to do, I have to do, and our team, we've got to make it even better.
Wind Tunnel is brought to you by Advance Auto Parts, the official auto parts retailer of NASCAR. Here's your host, Jack Arute.
Hello, and welcome to Wind Tunnel's Season 2. I'm happy that you decided to join me here. Now, this week's episode starts a season where I hope to pull back the curtain from America's motorsports world and take you behind that curtain by visiting with the sport's movers and shakers. I'm also pleased to let you know that Advance Auto Parts is back with us, and that each week they will help me focus the spotlight on what I feel is an underserved facet of the sport, yet a critical component to its continued health, the American short track scene. So this week I'll check in with Peyton Sellers, who parlayed his 2021 national title into a footnote in NASCAR's home tracks records. You see, Peyton's first national title came back in 2005, becoming the youngest driver to ever earn a NASCAR championship. Last year's title, well, that crown made him the oldest driver as well. Peyton and I talk about his 2022 plans and how he is also helping other drivers raise their game and polish their racecraft. Maybe the biggest off-season news has centered on NASCAR's decision to move their Clash event from Daytona to the famous LA Memorial Coliseum on a purpose-built quarter-mile flat track. This historic event is just days away, and I'll check in with NASCAR's Dave Allen, who is overseeing the event while also prepping Auto Club Speedway, where he's the president for their Cup Series post-Daytona 500 Western appearance. I'll also visit with Southern California's unofficial racing historian, Harold Osmer. You see, Osmer is the author of a book, Where They Raced, which is a comprehensive compilation of racing in Southern California. I think you might be surprised to learn that auto racing was part of the LA Coliseum's very early days. And finally, I share some time with a motorsports giant whose footprint extends into team ownership, track ownership, as well as sanctioning body ownership. Roger Penske, the captain, drops by, and you'll get his perspective on racing's future, its challenges, as well as his thoughts on the industry as a whole. So, pull those belts tight, because it is about to get fast and furious right here on Wind Tunnel.
Next here on Wind Tunnel.
There's something coming to Los Angeles. It's fast, and it's wild, and it cannot be stopped. It's NASCAR. It's called the Busch Light Clash at the Coliseum, and it's never happened before.
It's indeed the most talked about and most anticipated racing event in recent history. You'll get a peek at what is about to unfold in just a handful of days when NASCAR hosts the Busch Light Clash at the LA Memorial Coliseum.
With Advance Auto Parts, you can get the part you need from the comfort of your garage. We have a wide variety of parts in stock, and you can get them fast. Order online with Advance Same Day and get your part with same-day pickup in-store, same-day curbside, or same-day delivery. It's the fastest way to get the part you need, where you need it, when you need it. Advance your auto at Advance Auto Parts and participating CarQuest locations. See store for details.
NASCAR's offseason has certainly been a busy one, what with roster changes, the continued development of their next-gen car. But my first guest this week has been at the epicenter of what I think arguably is NASCAR's biggest gamble since 1959, when Big Bill France hosted the very first Daytona 500 on his newly constructed Daytona International Speedway. Now, he's the president of Southern California's Auto Club Speedway, but has also been in charge of transforming the LA Memorial Coliseum into that bull ring where they'll run the Busch Light Clash this weekend. Dave Allen, welcome inside the wind tunnel, my friend. Well, thank you. Also, right back at you. Look, you've got to feel right now like you're drinking water out of a fire hydrant. Already, you're trying to prepare Auto Club Speedway for a return to action during the West Coast swing after the Daytona 500. And then all of a sudden, your bosses call you up and say, hey, we got this idea, and we're going to put you in charge of the clash at the LA Memorial Coliseum. I want to focus on that because that's up front in just a couple of days. So how has it gone? Are we ready for something that we've never experienced before?
Well, first and foremost, when they told me about this concept, I was stoked. I grew up around the short tracks. I'm a dirt track guy. I'm a short track guy. Even though I've run, a big 2-mile oval the last 22 years. So, or at least run it last 7 years, but been at the track 22 years. So, the idea of running in the Coliseum is such a cool concept. I mean, it's not new. Obviously the racing has been going on there for a long time. You can look back to midgets back in the 40s that they ran there, on the track and the board tracks of Southern California. A lot of people forget how rich we are in racing history here in Southern California, whether it be Ontario Motor Speedway, Riverside, Ascot Park, which all places you are familiar with. But, the idea of running in the Coliseum, bringing our form of racing, bringing NASCAR Cup racing to the LA metro area and to such an iconic, arguably the most iconic piece of historical landmark that we have in LA, has been a tremendous undertaking and a tremendous honor to be able to be allowed to do what we're doing in there and laying asphalt down and creating a racetrack that we can go door to door on.
Yeah, once we're done visiting, Harold Osmer, who has kind of assumed the role of the unofficial Southern California historian, is going to join us here in the wind tunnel. But let me circle back because I called it the boldest venture that NASCAR has ever undertaken since Bill France came up with the lame idea, at least in some people's minds, of hosting a stock car race on a 2.5-mile high bank super speedway. Is this a signal, Dave, in your opinion? Because as you just alluded to, your resume runs deep. You're a racer, a race fan. Does this signal maybe a new commitment by NASCAR to try everything and anything to showcase their product, not only to established fans, but also to motorsports enthusiasts wherever they may be?
Well, first, I mean, going back to the beginning part of your question there. I mean, the France family obviously has done something right over the years, and they've been pretty spot on when it comes to taking risks. And whether it's Bill France Sr., Bill France Jr., Jim France, Lisa, and obviously Ben, which is really, he's the brainchild behind this, Ben Kennedy. The idea of taking it to the LA metro area, we've been obviously working here in Southern California for many years through Auto Club Speedway, but there's a lot of people in the metro area that haven't experienced this sort of type of racing before, or racing period. So the idea is to bring our sport to them and hopefully create a platform for them to enjoy it and understand it and absorb it for the first time and create fans out of them. So right now, about 60% of our ticket sales are new fans. So it's working. And so, our TV partners are super excited. Everybody's super excited about doing it. And I will say, I mean, you've given me the credit for running this thing. There's such a huge group of people, way more talented than I am, that are doing this. And it's taken an army to put it on. And we've still got a lot of work to do, but so far it's been a lot of fun, and we're looking forward to having people there.
So how do you, as the head of that 2-mile behemoth right there just outside the old Alcoa aluminum plant in what we call the Inland Empire of Southern California, the Auto Club Speedway, how do you parlay that enthusiasm that you've just recounted to us about this upcoming event? How do you parlay that into more butts in the seats when you finally returned to NASCAR Cup racing after a COVID-19 mandated hiatus.
Yeah, I mean, it's been almost 2 years. I mean, when we go back racing on February 27th, for the Wise Power 400 at Auto Club, that'll be the first time we've been on track since 2020. We got our race in, as you probably remember, right before the COVID thing hit. So we've been down for quite a long time. We've been back up. We were actually considered an essential facility. We parked a lot of cars on site to get them out of the ports and help with that. And we've been back operating with track rentals and different events and things like that. But, it'll be cool to see the cars back on track of the 2 mile. That's the cool thing about the Clash and the Auto Club event. Two completely different styles of racing. You got high speeds versus low speeds. You've got, door to door on both tracks, but you can go 5 wide at our track versus the bull ring, which will be tight at 2. So, I think 2 different forms of racing. I think for a new fan, look, it'd be a lot to ask to say, hey, come to the Clash and then come 3 weeks later to Auto Club this year, but they might come to Auto Club the following year or the year after that. So, or start to watch more on Fox and our TV partners. So, it's just exposing them to the sport, as and with a lot of us. I mean, I was exposed to the sport at a very young age through my dad, and that's how it took, and it just grabbed a hold of me and has never left. So I've always felt like if you can get someone to any racetrack, I don't care if it's a dirt track, a short track, a bull ring, a big track, any type of racing, it usually will grab them and they'll become some sort of fan and consume it in some way.
Yeah, you alluded to the fact your dad was a racer and you were exposed to it via the short track side of things. So I would think that you've got to absolutely be beside yourself about what's forthcoming this coming weekend there in downtown Los Angeles. Boy, has that got a ring to it. So you care to make any predictions there, my friend?
Oh my gosh. All I can predict is it will be an electric atmosphere, and it is a must-see event. And I'm sure for those that can't see it, they're going to have a heck of an experience on Fox watching it. So it's definitely a must-see event within downtown LA. And it is even in the beginning when I was talking to friends in LA, they couldn't quite wrap their head around it. It's like, wait a second, you're saying you're racing in on the football field part of the Coliseum? Yeah, we're laying asphalt down and we are racing. So there will be a quarter mile, a 2.5 degree banked racetrack there with safer barriers and fences, just like we normally would have. Obviously, it's a little different format than you'll see at Auto Club Speedway. We won't have pit stops in anger, so to speak, but you'll see qualifying, you'll see heat races, you'll see a last chance qualifier, and you'll see basically a main event, which is your local Friday, Saturday night short track shows. So I can't wait for either one of the races. I'm so ready to get back to racing here in Southern California, and we're lucky enough that NASCAR thinks so much of the market. This is a big market for us. It's our number 1 market that we race in. It's the number 2 media market in the country, but it's the number 1 market for NASCAR fans. And February is just a busy month of racing.
And neither can we wait for it either, because it is going to be something unique, a twofer, as we like to say. And we haven't even added the fact with the concert by Pitbull. So it's going to be wild and woolly. And I, just like you, I'm looking forward to it. Good luck this weekend, and then good luck when you open up the gates at Auto Club Speedway in just a handful of weeks. And I do appreciate catching up with you right here on Wind Tunnel.
Thanks for having me. Good to see you, Jack.
To help put the Clash at the Coliseum into an historical context, I am pleased to welcome Harold Osmer to the show. You see, Harold is considered the ultimate source for Southern California motorsports history. He's authored a book entitled Where They Raced, and believe me, it is indeed a true tell-all about all the old racetracks in Southern California. Hey, Harold, I can't thank you enough for joining me today. How are you?
Hey, I'm happy to be here with you, Jack, and I do appreciate you having me on. By the way, more auto racing in terms of just sheer venue numbers has taken place in Southern California than any other place in the world.
While this may be the first time for NASCAR, it certainly is not the first time for auto racing.
Oh, that's absolutely true. The first auto race in Los Angeles took place in 1903 at Agricultural Park, which is where the Coliseum is today. It was larger, though. It was a 1 mile horse track, as a lot of things were at the turn of the last century. And so in 1903, they had the Fiesta Week celebrations. and they held some automotive races there, which were, one car competing against another kind of thing. And that was 1903 on that very site.
I wonder, from your perspective, what the impact of this event will have from a historical perspective as far as Southern California auto racing. NASCAR certainly is beating the drums. I just finished a chat with Dave Allen, who is in charge not only of what's going to take place this weekend at the Memorial Coliseum, but upcoming in the end of February. Finally, SoCal gets back to NASCAR Cup action at his Auto Club Speedway. So where does it all fit from your perspective?
Well, the Busch Clash that's going to take place there, coming right up here, is I think going to be a one-off type of an event. It takes a lot of effort to put on a show like this. It's a quarter-mile track that goes over, in essence, the athletic track, which is kind of there and kind of not. And so I don't know that this will be a regular event kind of thing. It makes sense that they're doing it this time around because the following week there's some football game that's going on.
Some big game, yeah, right.
And that game, from what I understand, is like the Daytona 500 of football games going on right down the street. And so that'll be great. As we mentioned a little bit, this is not the first time that they've raced cars on in essence, a quarter-mile track inside the Coliseum. Promoter Bill White, who was famous in the early part of the last century for promoting a lot of different things, including Mines Field and Barney Oldfield and all that stuff, he arranged to get the midgets racing inside the Coliseum. He brought in and built a paved quarter-mile track right over the athletic track, and this was 1945. And he set it up, and he had people come out, and they attracted. And mind you, now, this wasn't just a one-off kind of thing. These guys ran for 4 years, 1945 through 48. They held 32 events. And over that 32 events, they averaged 18,000 people in attendance at these things. And when the standard purse that you put out would typically be a couple $100 for an event, he was paying 40% of the gate. 40% of the gate came up to about $15,000 in 1945 dollars. And they ran full fields out there. The other thing that happened with it was these drivers for the midgets, and this was right after World War II, these are the same guys who ran at Indianapolis. And so it was a big deal for them to run not only the midgets here, but go out and run in Indianapolis throughout the Midwest. They would run there. So you had the winningest driver over those 32 events was Sam Hanks, and he only had 6 wins. So of the 32 events, it isn't as though you had one guy dominate the whole show. But getting back to the track layout, they had a quarter-mile paved oval set in there in place for the first 3 or 4 races that they ran in 45. In 46, they bumped it out to a 1/3 mile track and added just the slightest banking, they called it. But the guys were going faster on the 3rd mile track than they were on the quarter-mile track. And they ran in front of huge crowds. You'd get 50, 60,000 people would show up. A lot of times it was your standard, call it your standard midget show, and they would have a 40-lap main event. A couple of times they ran 250-lap events, which just adds to the drama because now you need to stop for fuel. Somebody runs out of gas. Some car breaks down. So there's no telling who wins. And people were showing up in droves.
If we want to know more about the historical perspective of SoCal auto racing, your book, as I said, in my estimation, is probably the best tome that details all of it. Where can they get your Where They Raced Now, a Turn 3 edition?
Yes. It's been 25 years in the making, too. And you're great about that. It's at hopublishing.com. That's Harold Osmer Publishing. I know HO Publishing, you'd think I'd write about little trains or something, but that's not the case. But, I'm a little, I'm not shocked, but I'm a little disappointed by the LA Coliseum for one, because you go on their website and you look at their things and they talk all about the football games, and the Olympics were there twice, and all the athletic stuff that went on there. And they have zero word about the auto races that took place there. You can go on to the Wikipedia thing for the Coliseum, for instance, and I know that's not an official deal. Zero word about auto racing, and I'm not sure why. As I mentioned, this was the midgets that ran there. They formed their own organization. They ran for 4 years to huge crowds. It was 32 events over the span of those 4 years, so it wasn't a one-off. And yet there's no mention of it anywhere, man. We're getting the short end of this stick, that's for sure.
Well, I don't think we have to worry about it after this coming weekend, because once the Busch Light Clash at the Coliseum takes that final checkered flag, I don't care if it's Wikipedia, I don't care who it is, regardless of how the event turns out, it will be a massive footnote in the history of the LA Memorial Coliseum. And when you finally get around to the next edition of where they raced, I guess you're going to call it Turn 4, I'm sure it will occupy a special place. I do appreciate your stopping by and visiting with us here to help put us in a historical mood for this upcoming Busch Light Clash at the Coliseum. Not the very first time that motorsports has invaded that historical, iconic place in central LA, but it will get everybody's attention. Harold, good luck to you, and thanks so much.
Thank you very much. This is going to be a spectacular event, no doubt about that.
People in the know. Next up on Wind Tunnel.
They're moving to Sunoco, moving to Sunoco. Here's Roger Penske, golfer, racing driver, automotive expert. He moved to Sunoco for custom blending. He knows cars all have different octane needs.
This radio commercial aired all the way back in 1967, when Roger Penske's early racing accomplishments started him on the journey to the pinnacle of both the business world as well as the motorsports universe. I chat with the captain next.
There's more Wind Tunnel coming your way after this timeout.
With Advance Auto Parts, you can get the part you need from the comfort of your garage. We have a wide variety of parts in stock, and you can get them fast. Order online with Advance Same Day and get your part with same-day pickup in-store, same-day curbside, or same-day delivery. It's the fastest way to get the part you need, where you need it, when you need it. Advance your auto at Advance Auto Parts and participating CarQuest locations. See store for details.
And there's the checkered flag for Mark Donahue, winner of the 1972 Indianapolis 500-mile race.
The victory is the first for team owner Roger Penske.
Wind Tunnel, your home for real motorsports conversation.
Well, from humble origins outside of Cleveland, Ohio, my next guest, look, he's done it all in racing and also in the business world. We're talking about Roger Penske, who joins me inside the Wind Tunnel. Roger, in a little bit more than 50 years, you've been there, done that. Not only have the T-shirt and the souvenir bumper sticker, but you've redefined whether it's the business side of things or the motorsports side of things. In your wildest dreams, when you started buying used sports cars and then rebuilding them and reselling them, did you ever think it was going to end up like this?
Well, I guess, Jack, you got to go back to probably 1951, when my dad took me to Indy when I was a young boy, 14 years old, and I got hooked on, I guess, auto racing. But cars were certainly, in my future, because I watched them, I looked at them, my dad took me to the races. But on the other hand, when I was growing up, he taught me one thing: if you wanted something, he said you got to work for it. And I remember I wanted to get a bicycle, so I had to go out and get so many new customers for the Cleveland News and got a new bike. And he always said, look, you raise half the money and I'll be your backer for the other half. And I think that got me started in a way that I had to produce for myself. On the other hand, I had the support of my father, and mother, which obviously is important to all of us as we grow up through time. But, as I think about it in the journey, really is loving cars. Been doing a little racing myself. Really back, as you know, back in '65, I wanted to become a Chevrolet dealer, and I was racing at that point. And General Motors said, "Look, if you're going to be a race driver, we're not going to prove you to be a Chevy dealer." And that's the same thing they did with Jim Rathman. If you remember, he was a Indy 500 winner with a Chevrolet dealership down in Florida. So I made the change. A couple of years later, we started the team, and I kept my foot on the gas in the auto business. And Mark Donahue and I became great friends. I met him up at Lime Rock at one of the races. And I guess the story after that is a lot of success. Unfortunately, we lost him in a tragic accident in Austria in the warm months for Grand Prix. But no, it's been amazing. But it's all about the people. I say it every time. I mean, we've been able to really gather around our teams some of the greatest people. When you think about our organization today, we've got over 65,000 people working in the Penske companies on a worldwide basis. We're on 4 continents and 9 countries. And as you know, we're heavily involved in the automobile business around the world. And certainly our truck leasing business has been outstanding. Think about that. 50 years ago, we bought a small little company up in Reading called MM Waterbore. It was the Hertz car and truck licensee. And we had 300 units. As we crossed the threshold of 2021, we had 357,000 units in our fleet now. So continues to grow. Great people, 38,000 people in that business. We represent many of the top, customers around the country. And again, we've gone into our Freightliner business where we're retailing Freightliner trucks. As you know, that's we're one of the biggest dealer groups. So I've stayed in transportation. I've stayed things that are associated with cars and trucks. And then, of course, that common thread through the entire business has been motorsports and performance.
And in both cases, just as an outside observer, Roger, you've always applied the same, what I think is very simplistic and yet demanding business adage, and that is to do it the very best way possible and to never forget that it's all about the people and the customers. You've done that both on the automotive side with your dealerships, but now as you've taken ownership of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the NTT IndyCar Series, heck, everything seems to coalesce against that same Penske attitude, starched white shirt, black pants, and always have a smile on your face and always be looking for the next opportunity.
Well, my wife said, I always come home, I got another opportunity. So maybe there's one out there. I think the opportunity that came really back, as you remember, in the end of 19 with Tony George, on Indianapolis is one that came out of left field, really, having been a track owner with Michigan, building California, involved with the NASCAR boys down at Homestead and Rockingham and Cleveland, and obviously putting on the Detroit Grand Prix. That was a very interesting discussion. And you talked about customers. I said, we really have, and I think about it this way every day. We have 2 customers, you do and I do. It's one that you're talking with, you're selling outside, but it's also the person that works next to you. And sometimes people forget that those people inside are the most important people. I guess it's like the pit crew. You've got the driver and the sponsor and the owner, but the inside people are the ones that make it happen. But Indy has been a special challenge for us, meaning not negative challenge, but one that we've really revered over the last 24 months. And the team, with Mark Miles and certainly Doug Bowles and that whole group with Jay Fry at IndyCar and now with Levi Jones coming in, who is a great sprint car driver to run the Indy Lights program. To me, Kevin Sublett runs our IMSP, which is our production company. What I've tried to do, instead of having 4 different entities, we're trying to operate as one. Let's take the strengths, of our marketing, of our digital, of our sponsorship, of our competition, building stars, whether it's Indy Lights or it's in IndyCar, and you can see it. Our ticket sales are way up this year. As we look out, we have 234,000 seats, and we probably, between what we have already in sold orders and what we're committed to with contracts and also other people that we provide tickets to, we're probably sitting at about 190,000. So that doesn't count any infield we're going to go forward with concerts this year. We're excited to talk about some of that talent. I think switching over to IndyCar, our big weekend will be in Iowa this year with Hy-Vee, and them taking over that weekend will be great. Certainly going into Detroit in 23, with running in the streets of Detroit has created a lot of interest here. So we're looking for game changers. And the good news is that all of our track owners are all coming back with good news on ticket sales, suites. So hopefully, this pandemic has moved past us. Obviously, we're still dealing with Omicron, which hopefully will go away here over the next several weeks or a couple of months. But the Speedway is iconic. It's a place we want to invest. We've invested another $20 million in just infrastructure and support. If you're a golfer, we've made that golf course into something special the way it was before. And we use that, obviously, to help our sponsors bring people into the track. What Mark Miles and the guys have done, we're vaccinating people there, probably done 120,000 over the last several months. So we're trying to give back, to the community. We had Speedway high school graduation, people driving across the yard of bricks, and then we would hand them their diploma. So some great stuff.
Look, it's very obvious where the Indianapolis Motor Speedway fits into your, shall I say, inner soul, sharing that your dad took you there for the very first time, like my dad did as well, and you can never get rid of it. But overall, as you survey the landscape, because you are one of the few, Roger, that can look at it from all of the various angles, not just IndyCar, but NASCAR and some of the initiatives that they're taking, like this weekend's, Busch Light Clash at the Coliseum, everything that we're now engaging in as we come out of this COVID-19. Do you like the direction that the industry is taking, or are there some things that you would like to see us maybe focus on in 2022 and 2023?
Well, I think change is important right now, Jack. The world is changing, people's habits, what they want, communication, obviously, because of the internet, other ways that we can communicate. So I think we need to change up. And I think NASCAR realizes that. They have a long season, some 36, 37 times we've got to go to the track. It's got to be different. And I think that's one of the benefits we have at IndyCar, with a 16 or 17 race schedule. And to me, that gives us shorter races, probably more eye candy, maybe, that people can look at for a shorter period of time. But I'm in favor of it. I think the new Gen car has created a lot of interest. And one thing they have done, they've taken cost out, which is really good. I think the IndyCar series has been pretty consistent on what it costs you to run a car and have a car you can run up front. And in Indy Lights, we've kept the rules the same for the next 3 or 4 years, so we can develop more drivers and more teams. But I think the racing, the things that we're doing in qualifying, running an IndyCar race and a NASCAR race at the same venue like we will at Indianapolis this year in August, these things are all, I think, going to be important from an Indy Speedway perspective. One of the things that we've talked about is having a sports car race there sometime in the next couple of years. So that's probably a big focus on ours. Can we find a schedule point where we could have a long distance race there and build that energy what we see at Daytona, we see at Le Mans, we see at Sebring. So that's something that's high on our list from the standpoint of just Indy, if you look at it by itself. But I think rule changes, we need to be stable. It costs money every time you change it. I think the current direction and the series that we see, I think the rules are providing us a level playing field from a cost perspective, which will help us attract new drivers and new teams in. So electrification is out there. I think we see some series with that. That obviously will run separate to where we are. I think hybrid is going to be something that we're going to look at as we go forward, not only in NASCAR, but in IndyCar. I think the fuels we use that can be renewable will be very important to us when we think about the atmosphere. So that's got to be key. And then on the top of my list is this race for diversity and change, and being able to bring people up that maybe haven't had the opportunity. And one thing I found out when I went to Indy, that Rod Reed for the last 10 years has brought in somewhere between 50 and 100 young kids each year into Indianapolis and provided them with go-karts and taught them about wheels, taught them about suspension, some STEM situations that they were not familiar with. And many of these kids only had one parent. The mother would come in. And the thing that hurt me the most was that talking to the mothers and the kids, they thought they couldn't come in the Indianapolis Motor Speedway because they had a guard out there with a badge on. Just think about it. I mean, so we've stepped up our diversity and change. Jimmy McMullen is our new diversity officer, great guy, works for us at Indy and is taking this role on. And we're going to have, as you might have heard, we hope to announce shortly that we'll have a driver of color and a team of color that will be competing in Indy Lights as we go forward in 2022. So we're sticking with our plan, supporting NXG, which is a go-kart program at the Speedway. And also, we supported Beth Pareto last year, Miles Rowe in the 2000. And this year, we're hoping to move into Indy Lights.
Well, and on top of all that, you've become this massive dirt track promoter as well. Now, you may not have gone down to the Chili Bowl, but what you hold there in that turn 3 area with that quarter-mile dirt track, it has to take something to get Jeff Gordon to get back in the cockpit of a midget, and he shook one down. And it was very evident to me, Roger, that you thoroughly enjoyed your time there, and you pretty much just took your folks there at the Speedway and said, we're going to keep this going, and we're going to make it an integral part of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Well, guess what? I went there and I didn't know what to expect. And I went to dirt races out at Sportsman's Park in Cleveland. That's where I went and sat in the fourth turn and got dirt. And I was used to that. But to see these guys run, these kids, and the way they run those midgets was amazing. And to see Larson, he bounces off the fourth turn wall, then cuts down and gets into the lead. It was amazing. And I think that we're going to continue to grow that and make it even a better event as we go forward. The one ironic thing that came out of that, I really saw Levi Jones at his best, operating that. And when we were looking for someone to take on Indy Lights, that name came up, that face came up, and he's jumped into the seat as a real asset for IndyCar and Indy Lights as we go forward. So I got a benefit out of that from the standpoint of a new leader. On the other hand, I think there's a great fan base there, and to see these kids, and I just can't wait to see them come back next year. So you can count on a full bore event.
Neither can we. And Roger will get you the goggles and the Solo Cup with the top on it so you don't get the clay in there. Listen, it's been a real pleasure. Continued success. We're getting ready to kick off the season on the NASCAR side. We've already getting ready to kick off the season the end of February in St. Petersburg, Florida. It is time to crank it back up, and it's good to have you at the helm of so many key pieces in the moving part that is the world of motorsports. I appreciate it, and thanks for joining me here inside the wind tunnel today.
Jack, thank you. It's obviously you're a great friend. We've known each other for a long time, and you've been a great promoter of the sport. And God bless you and your family, and we'll see you down the road.
Thank you, Roger. I do appreciate it.
Have a comment or suggestion? Visit jackarootswindtunnel.com and leave us a message. There's more Wind Tunnel coming your way after this timeout.
With Advance Auto Parts, you can get the part you need from the comfort of your garage. We have a wide variety of parts in stock, and you can get them fast. Order online with Advance Same Day and get your part with same-day pickup in-store, same-day curbside, or same-day delivery. It's the fastest way to get the part you need, where you need it, when you need it. Advance your auto at Advance Auto Parts and participating CarQuest locations. See store for details.
Man, this is for all those guys. There's a ton of them out there that are like me, that have won here and all these great short tracks around here. We can do it. We just need the opportunities. Today proved it. Yeah, it's a short track, but it's still damn hard to win here, and we did it.
They are hometown heroes, drivers who put their passion on the line in front of their friends.
Here we go, 3 wide, got Sellers up in the marble.
Halfway home in this one, and here is the fight for the lead.
Off turn 4, he heads for the checkered flag.
They're 3 wide in 2 different rows.
Time now to focus the spotlight on hometown heroes with this week's Advance Auto Parts Victory Lap. Brought to you by the NASCAR Advance Auto Parts Weekly Racing Series, driving local racing in local communities forward.
Well, he's been with us on previous editions of Wind Tunnel, in fact, several times last season, and he's back to kick off our season 2. Now, his championship season last year earned Peyton Sellers a footnote in NASCAR's Weekly Racing Series history. You see, by winning last season, he became both the youngest and the oldest driver to win NASCAR's national title. Taking a victory lap today is the 2021 NASCAR Advance Auto Parts Weekly Series National Champion, our friend Peyton Sellers. Peyton, welcome back to the Wind Tunnel. I do want to point out that most off seasons, teams get to the garage, kind of map things out, what they want to get accomplished, get all their stuff all, brushed up, polished up, improved, go through everything, make sure you got the inventory. But you carried it to the extreme. You went into the crash house to repair your body as well. Tell me a little bit about that excitement.
The week before Martinsville, which is our biggest race of the year, I was riding bikes with a friend of mine, Colin Garrett, that races for us as well, and took kind of a spill on my right knee there and tore my meniscus pretty bad. So got it worked on Thursday. They finally got me in. They had to delay it a few weeks with COVID and all that, but been laid up the last couple of days. We've got snow on the ground to come in last night here in Virginia. So kind of enjoying a quiet day at home, just kind of letting my leg heal a little bit right now and not having to be at the shop today.
Big question, though, I think all of us want to know. Is it something you can recover soon enough to get back in the cockpit according to your pre-schedule, or do you have to kind of take it depending on what the docs and the physical therapists say?
Well, our goal right now is to get ready before Caraway here in a few weeks, 1st of March. So I got about a month off still. They 3-week recovery on it. They had to remove about 40% of my meniscus. So I'm kind of anxious to see how the recovery will be. I start therapy on Monday morning with it.
I've talked oftentimes, and we spent a lot of time talking about your accomplishments as a driver over a couple of decades, but your operation may be a full-time team, but as a family effort, you and your family have to divide your time between your passion and what, well, for a very long time paid your bills and fueled that passion, and that was your regular business. So between the construction business, I'm kind of interested. How does Peyton Sellers and his family members balance the two, Sellers Racing and the construction business?
It's something that everybody just kind of pulls in the same direction on. My dad, he is 67 years old. My mom's 67. They both work in the office every day. They help me bid work and help me kind of handle the business side of it. I go out in the field and get the work done and make sure the guys get going every day. HC handles the race team, and it's all right in the same building. So we all kind of pull together in the same direction. And we all have the common bond of racing as being kind of our passion that we want to do. So we all understand that we've got to put in our time in different things to make it, to be able to come together and go racing on the weekends.
You created a little bit of a side hustle, though, as a benefit of what you've accomplished in the racing world. And that gave birth not just to Sellers Racing, but also you now provide opportunities to young aspiring drivers that want to follow in your footsteps. And, oh, wait a minute, hold on, I forgot. Also want to whip you each and every week.
It's tough. I tell you got these young guns coming up and you're trying to work with them and trying to provide fast cars to them. But at the end of the day, they want to beat you. And that's their goal, is to move up the ladder as well. So it does create some good on the track, but also at the end of the day, we're all there to win. So as good as car as I can give them, but also the experience has to pay off too. So, we have a struggle there from time to time where, young kids racing on my bumper and beating on it, and we're racing hard and they beat me, so it's the best thing that can happen in our business is have one of our customers beat me on the racetrack. So that's the best way to resell rides.
You've got that young gun. He's been beating and banging on your rear bumper lap after lap after lap. Finally, it's over. He pulls in next to you by the hauler. You get out of the car. What do you say to your young aspiring clients?
Well, you can't do anything but be happy for them, because their career wanting to beat me because I'm the old guy at the racetrack. I'm the guy that's won championships and won races, so they want to beat me. But last year Daniel Silvestri was one of our teammates, and he moved me out of the way for a win. And this year Landon Pembleton, raced door to door with me for a win one night, and we finished kind of a photo finish. So that's what we need to happen in racing. And at the end of the day, you got to leave it all on the track and not bring it back into the pits with you, and just be happy for them.
Peyton, how has it made you a better driver?
Just my experience kind of being on both sides of the spectrum. I was a young gun trying to come up through the ranks, and then I'm kind of the seasoned guy now that sits there every week and understands that, hey, all of this stuff is fun, but it's sport. Leave it out there, give everything you've got, give 110% Saturday night. But Monday we're going to get them go to work and try to, have a normal life as well. So I think just being able to have that full, everything's kind of come full circle for me as a driver, and being able to kind of tell young drivers, hey, there's way more to this life than this world that we're in than just what happens on Saturday night, just what happens on the results page looking Sunday morning after the race. So, you can have as much success running fourth on Saturday night if you learned a lot and done a lot and brought the car home in one piece as you can going for the win and wrecking on Saturday night going for the win. So, there's a lot bigger picture than what, young drivers see.
Was that little side hustle, was that just actually developed out of necessity to keep you going with your Toyota?
Yeah, 100%. It was just, in 2005, I was running for national points, and we had a young driver, Brad Coleman, came to us to want to race some. We raced him on Friday nights over at Ace Speedway, and Brad went on to race for Braun Racing. He runs some Xfinity, some Busch races at the time, and had a career. And now he's settled back in at home in Texas and runs his own business there. So yes, it was a way for us to help pay our bills, help offset some of our costs, our labor costs, and things like that. And it tied in perfectly with what we did every week, so it made it an easy transition to be able to do that.
When you won your first championship, you were the new kid on the block. People were still getting to know that Peyton Sellers and how to pronounce it properly. Last year, as I alluded to, you became the oldest national champion. Between then and now, what is the most important lesson that you as a driver have learned?
Just like I said just now, there's way more to life than driving race cars. And for me, it's my faith and everything that I stand for off the track and showing it on the track as well, showing the respect, showing that, hey, I'm not here to be the bully or anything like that. And, to live to race another day, I guess you can say. So I feel the respect on and off the track. I realize that, there's more to family and life and business and everything we do than just what happens on a racetrack. So that has made me a better driver on the track because I realize how expensive these cars are. I realize how fortunate I am to be racing every week, and try to just take all that in stride and put it together and put forth a good example before the racers that race against us every week.
That span of the career that I alluded to also has afforded you an opportunity that's somewhat unique, and that's being able to track the ups and the downs of the short track racing industry. Long before COVID-19, there were challenges. And then in the midst of COVID-19, supply side issues with tires, et cetera. From your perspective, is there light at the end of the tunnel?
So I really feel that way. We had a lull. For me, I came through the Winston racing days, and Winston put a lot of money in short track racing. They did a lot for the sport. And then it transitioned to Dodge and then to Whelen. And Whelen done a lot for racing as well. But here we got Advanced Auto Parts stepping into the picture, and they're putting money back into the racetracks very heavily right now as well. So if we get the supply chains figured out, and we're fighting that in the construction world, every aspect of life right now is fighting that supply chain issue. So if we get those figured out, racing is strong right now. Short track racing is strong. Just this week, a Southern National Raceway Park announced a $50,000 to win late model stock race in the fall. So you're seeing more people spend money. There's a $30,000 win race coming up at Caraway here next month that we're going to try to run in. So, there's a lot of money being put back into short track racing right now. And you see a lot of guys settling in. Hey, let's face it, there's only, 100 paid positions in the top 3 series. Basically, there's about 100 paid race car drivers that get to do it at that top level. Well, there's 5,000 racers across the country that want to race. So they got to do something. They can't all race Xfinity or Cup or trucks. So there's a lot of opportunities to race and do things. You've seen that at the Chili Bowl the other week. They had a packed house 300 cars at the Chili Bowl. So short track racing is still alive and well.
There's also an awful lot of people that have made it to the very top, led by the likes of Kevin Harvick, that have become very outspoken advocates for the direction that he thinks the sport needs to take from the sanctioning body standpoint. A couple of weeks ago on the morning drive on Sirius XM NASCAR radio, he visited with Pete Pistone and Mike Bagley. I want you to listen to his comments after they had discussed this weekend's running of the Busch Light Clash at the Coliseum.
I think as you go forward, if they don't want to move the All-Star race around, I think as you look at going to a quarter-mile racetrack, I think it might open up a door to really take the idea of taking that clash and taking it to a short track somewhere in the country and saying, okay, well, we raced on a quarter-mile racetrack. Why can't we race on a 3/8 mile racetrack and be able, and I've always said this, I believe that the short track system needs some help and needs something to back it up and be able to support it like Winston used to be able to put some money into a series and create those racetracks that have an infrastructure built for the short track system. Say if you go to, let's just say you go to Kern County Raceway and say we're going to have the All-Star race or the Busch Clash at Kern County Raceway next year, and there's only 6,000 people that sit around it, but we can do the same thing that we did at the Busch Clash and go in 3 years or 2 or 3 years beforehand and say, hey, we're going to give you X amount of money. You got to build this for your infrastructure. We're going to come here and have our Busch Clash, and you've rebuilt a racetrack and you've built the excitement in an area about short track racing, and you have a place that you could take some of your Xfinity cars to another short track because it seems like that's where it's evolving. It's got everything that it needs to have a race and the excitement generated in an area about racing in general for the next several years that it'll live off of, and you go to the next one. How do you feel about him maybe sending up a trial balloon publicly advocating for the short track community?
So Kevin he was spot on right there. He made perfect sense what he was saying, and he's that older tier of driver right now that's he's looking at the end of his career and how he can make an impression on the sport, a lasting impression. So he's able to say that more so than a Kyle Larson or somebody like that for sure. What's wrong with going to Stafford Speedway and saying this is what we're going to do, or for instance, for me the LA Coliseum, it's a great venue, don't get me wrong, it's something neat that we all think would be good, but let's look at the history of what Fontana has done for NASCAR. And there's a reason that Riverside couldn't make it for all these years. There's a reason that Fontana is now revamping their track, making it a short track. The fans don't support short track racing out there like they need to for some reason. Now, I've raced at Irwindale a lot, and I love that track. Kern's a nice track. Maybe they could have done it at one of those tracks easily. But logistics-wise, why make these teams go all the way to California one week and right back to Daytona the next? How come they couldn't do it in New Smyrna or somewhere on the East Coast to make it logistics a little bit easier for these teams that are all based out of Charlotte? Let's think about the race teams a little bit here instead of just going and blowing a pile of money at one track, just have to tear it back up next week. So I think there's ways that NASCAR could have probably redone this, and maybe they'll take a look at it. And, I know that the racing will be good next week. Don't get me wrong. They'll have a good race, because the caliber of drivers they're taking, the caliber of teams they're taking, they're going to make a race of it anywhere they go. So Kevin was spot on right there. Let's use it back into the tracks that have supported NASCAR for years and years. What has the LA Coliseum done to support NASCAR? Nothing. So what has Bowman Gray Stadium or South Boston Speedway or Stafford or whoever that has been a sanctioned track for many, many years and is still trying to find their way right now through the pandemic and all that? Let's spend some money back with one of these tracks to make this happen locally.
Well, listen, my man, you do everything that those physical therapists require you to do. Got to push through the pain. But I guarantee you one thing. Once you strap yourself back in that 26A1 Clarence's Steakhouse Toyota, all that pain will go away. Good luck to you. Look forward to visiting with you on a regular basis, baby.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it anytime.
You've been listening to the Advance Auto Parts Victory Lap, brought to you by the NASCAR Advance Auto Parts Weekly Racing Series, driving local racing in local communities forward.
With Advance Auto Parts, you can get the part you need from the comfort of your garage. We have a wide variety of parts in stock, and you can get them fast. Order online with Advanced Same Day and get your part with same-day pickup in-store, same-day curbside, or same-day delivery. It's the fastest way to get the part you need, where you need it, when you need it. Advance your auto at Advance Auto Parts and participate in CarQuest locations. See store for details.
That will put a lid on this week, and if I do say so myself, I think it's a pretty good way to kick off Season 2. Many thanks to this week's guests, Dave Allen, Harold Osmer, Peyton Sellers, and of course, the captain, Roger Penske. Now next week, I'll review Meyer-Shank Racing's impressive win in the Rolex 24. I'll peel away the good, the bad, and the ugly, if there is any, from NASCAR's clash at the Coliseum. We'll take a look at the upcoming NASCAR Advance Auto Parts Weekly Racing Series scene, and I'll visit with an old friend and NASCAR Hall of Famer, Darrell Waltrip. Until then, I'm Jack Arute saying thanks for joining me right here inside the wind tunnel.
You've been listening to Jack Arute's Wind Tunnel, brought to you by Advance Auto Parts, the official auto parts retailer of NASCAR. Follow us on our social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And be sure to subscribe to Wind Tunnel's YouTube channel, where you'll discover bonus content. I'm Lenny Baticki.